I would like to welcome you to COM 248 Organizational Communication. I'm glad that you decided to take the class this summer. I think it's going to be a good class. My name is Peggy Kendall, and what I wanted to do to begin with is to go through a little bit about how this course is going to run and what it's going to look like over the next 4 weeks. First of all, I think it's important to note that this course is seriously 4 weeks long. 4 weeks long is not very much, considering this same exact course is a 3 credit course that meets 3 times a week for 15 weeks. So that there's a couple of implications to that. First of all, it goes really fast, and you really can't get behind because once you do, you've got, every single day is like a week's worth of work. So make sure if you are deciding to take this class that in these next 4 weeks, you schedule yourself time. You make sure that you have a space and a place and a time to sit down and to actually work on this. My guess is there's about 5 units each week. Each unit will probably take 1 or 2 hours at a time. So just plan accordingly. Now, also keep in mind that this is an online course. And if you have never taken an online course before, there's something that you need to know. It tends to be a little bit more work. More work in that instead of coming into class and we talk about it and we laugh and I can see whether you get it or not. The only way I can tell if you're getting it and how things are going is for me to have you read something, listen to my lecture, and then do some sort of writing about it. So there's much more reading, much more writing. And for all of each of the things that you do with the reading, you'll be either quizzed on or you'll have some sort of project activity that you'll be working with. Now, I've divided things up into units, and each unit is a separate topic. And for each unit, there's a chapter in the textbook, and there is usually a lecture that goes with it. And then there's also usually one or more activities. Maybe it's a reading quiz or a pre-reading quiz. For the pre-reading quizzes, if you could do that before you read the textbook, that would be great. Those are kind of low stakes sort of things to get you thinking about the topic. And then at the end of, I think, 3 of the 4 weeks are exams that are closed book. They're timed, and basically they'll cover what was gone over in that week. And for those exams, you'll want to make sure that you've done all the work before you take the exam. Uh, and part I get concerned that the big assignments, um, it's just too hard to do all of the assignments and get them done in 4 weeks. So what I'm doing is I'd like you to finish all of the coursework pieces, the units, but the major assignments, you can have a little extra time to get those done. Basically, if we could get those done by Tuesday, June 27th, that would be great. I'd like to get all the grades in by the end of June, or we could call it all good. If you have any problems with that, let me know. So the major assignments, you've got a little more time on. Everything else would be good if you could get started on those and keep up and be timely with those. I'm a little more open during the summer as far as getting things done, but what I don't want to happen, which is so not good, is when someone, after the entire thing, someone comes through and does all of the units, all of the assignments, like throws them together at the last minute and does them all at once. And it's usually poor work, poor quality, and I get kind of ticked off when that happens because the kind of learning that's supposed to happen didn't happen. So try and keep up with the daily units, the assignments you've got a little more time with. How I try to set things up with this course is that each assignment, each week, we've got 2 due dates. And I would consider it be due on that date by having it done midnight of the date that is on Moodle. Okay, a couple of things. First of all, the textbooks. These textbooks, I usually don't require big expensive textbooks, but unfortunately for organizational communication, this really is an important part of the discipline. And so this whole course is about putting it all together and making sure that you've got the foundation uh, to do further study in this area. Now, what that means is that there are specific organizational communication textbooks, and that really is the best way to get the flavor for what this whole discipline is about. So what that means is you need to go out and buy or rent the textbook Organizational Communication. Now, I know that the old editions are oftentimes cheaper. So if you want to get an old edition, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. Just make sure that sometimes they changed, and in fact, I think she did. She changed some of the numbers of the chapters. So if I say like chapter whatever, just make sure that the chapter that you're looking at goes with the topic of the day. Okay, and then we've got two popular books that I've put on here. One is called Generating Buy-in by Walton, and the next one is Five Dysfunctions of a Team by Lencioni. Both of those are very popular books, especially the Five Dysfunctions of a Team. You'll find that if you get yourself into an organization, like in an internship or a job, that these things are things that people talk about. So I wanted to bring in some real life stuff that people actually have training on and they actually read in organizations. All right, so the next thing has to do with the course outcomes. Um, Basically, five things we're looking at in this course. First of all, like I said, this is a specific discipline in the field of communication. So it's important to understand kind of the underlying foundational theories and terminology of this part of the discipline. I also want to make sure that you get enough actual real life skill that you're able to analyze what's going on. So these theories aren't just like, good things to know, but they're actually things that help you look at things in specific ways. It helps you analyze situations. So hopefully, like if you have a job this summer, you can go in with these theories and actually see things differently because of the theories. So hopefully it'll allow you to analyze and adjust to different things that happen in an organization. We'll also talk about a lot of different ways that communication comes into organizations, whether it's management, whether it's kind of the technology channels you use, interpersonal communication, conflict, group process, decision making, culture, a lot of different kinds of things. Also, I think this is a really important place to make sure that you have some of the basic business skills, like how do you write a business letter? I mean, I'm afraid that a lot of times you don't really have experience writing in business format. So we'll learn how to write letters, especially letters that are important and hard to write, like bad newsletters, things like that. We'll also be giving a speech in this class. So verbal communication is important as well. And finally, we want to make sure that with the discussions, with the posts, all the things that we do, that we're bringing in a Christian perspective into everything that we do. So those are some of the course outcomes. Now, the major assignments, which of course is always the things I know in a class that I'm most interested in. So let me go through these. Remember that there's each unit has a couple of reading activity things to do in it, and these are on top of the units. All right. So the first is a fast food analysis paper. We're going to be learning about things like management and also nonverbal communication, power, gender, things like that. And what I want you to do for this assignment is you're going to be going into a fast food restaurant, someplace where you can actually see the managers interact with the workers. And you are going to analyze a couple of things. You're going to analyze, first of all, kind of the nonverbals in the space. So like if you go into Culver's, that's a very different feel than if you go into like Jimmy John's. And then I want you to kind of sit as close to the management and employee thing as you can, kind of watch them without, being weird. And you'll apply one or more of the management theories to kind of some of the things that you see in the interactions between the workers and the managers. And then finally, I'm going to want you to go online and look at the organization's website, because they always have culture and values and things like that. And I want you to talk about how what you saw matches up with what they say in their website that is their mission or their values. So that's a fast food analysis paper. It means you're going to have to go out and, go to a fast food restaurant and enjoy yourself, analyze. I think it's kind of fun. Uh, the next thing is a writing portfolio. You're going to have a number of different kind of scenarios, and you're going to have to do 2 formal business letters and 2 formal business memos. And there'll be more on that later, but that's the writing portfolio. You're going to have to do 1 speech in this class, buy-in speech, which is kind of like a persuasive speech, but we'll talk more about that later. You'll need to, you don't have to give it to an audience, although an audience would be good. You will need to videotape yourself, so hopefully you've got some video, some way that you can capture your file. So that's the speech. You have 2 interviews. They're both mock interviews, so you're not really interviewing for a job. The first interview is I want you to interview someone who's pretending to apply for a job. So you are the interviewer. And then I want you to switch the tables and someone is going to interview you for a job. Now, both of these are going to be videotaped, and there'll be kind of more guidelines on that later. What would make a lot of sense is you wouldn't have to do quite as much work if you could find someone from the class and have them interview you and then switch. Then I don't know, it's like 1 less video both ways. So those are the interviews. And then the last part of that piece is that you'll take these 3 videos that you have, one of the speech, one of the interviewer, one is the interviewee, and you're going to analyze, what do you look like as a communicator? What are some of your strengths and weaknesses? The next major assignment is a book discussion, and basically this is a discussion forum. This is the only discussion forum that we'll have where you actually have to go back and forth with each other and actually have an actual discussion with another real live person. So you'll want to make sure that you're up to date at least to that point for that particular assignment. You're going to have to do an informational interview in this course. And basically that means that you go and you make an appointment with someone and you interview them about their job. And hopefully it will be a job that you're sort of interested in. We'll talk more about this later, but basically it's like a real life interview and you're getting information about what it's like to work in this line of work, basically. And then you're going to write that paper up, and you're also going to talk about how did you do in the interview? Were you, did it go well? What could have gone better? Because we are talking about kind of interview skills and a lot of these other things too. And then the very last thing is a paper where you're going to think about some place that you've worked in the past and a problem that you remember or have been part of. And basically, you're going to analyze that problem and try and find a solution to it. So those are some of the major assignments. And there's many more specifics on Moodle, and that's really the place where you're going to find, hopefully, most of the information. So, before we get too much further, I'd like to let you know who I am. Like I said, my name is Peggy Kendall, Dr. Peggy Kendall, although nobody ever actually calls me doctor. I've been at Bethel for the last 17 years full-time, and then about 12 years before that part-time, and then I actually went to school here. So I did actually have other work in there, but I actually have been part of Bethel for quite some time. I would say the field that I've done most of my work in has been in the area of technology and communication. I've written 3 books, Rewired, which is youth ministry and technology, Connected, which is Christian parenting, and then my favorite book, which is Reboot, which talks about how technology impacts our faith and our Christian living. I am married to a fabulous husband, almost 31 years. Thank you very much. We like to travel. In fact, we like to travel so much that we co-lead the Europe term that takes place every other fall. And we love going on Europe term. I've got 2 kids. Tigger and Winnie the Pooh are not related. I've got a dog, and my very favorite place in the world is a place called Millstatt, Austria, and there's a castle that we spend in Europe term. We spend 3 weeks there every other year, and it's my favorite place in the world. So that's me. Some of my business background, uh, I used to teach, no, I used to be the director of advertising for one of the larger home builders in the state of Minnesota. Did marketing, advertising, graphic design, real estate, closing, some of those kinds of things. And organizational communication is something that I think is really interesting because there's organizations can get so messed up by bad communication. So when you get the skills to go into an organization and make a difference by the way that you communicate, that's huge. And people and companies will train you how to do specific jobs, but I'll tell you what, um, being able to go in and work with people and analyze situations and communicate in a way that's articulate and sensitive, um, that is pretty cool. So, welcome to organizational communication. I hope that you enjoy the course.